Hey, I'm Adam Tracy, and well, we've always had DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, but now we have Wyoming DAOs, and that's a good thing in general. And it's the first attempt to codify a DAO. And to the extent that you're not familiar, DAO really always had a legal designation. It was really just what's called a general partnership, right? And, you know, it was this attempt, or is an attempt, to create this sort of consensus partnership based on token ownership or a governance token. And it attempts to take ownership away from centralized individuals and put it in the hands of like your rank and file owners or participants or members or partners, whatever you want to call them. But, you know, to the extent that the DAO was thought to be its own kind of standalone type of entity, it never really was. Under state laws, which govern the laws of entities, business entities, it's really just a general partnership. But Wyoming took it a step farther, and Wyoming said, okay, fine, we're going to amend our LLC statute to allow for these DAO LLCs. And that's great for a couple reasons. One, it provides legal structure. So when it comes to opening like a fiat bank account, you have something you can actually open it with. When it comes to liability protections, inherent liability protections that pertain or come from the general LLC statute that inure to the members, if you will. And also the benefit of having a legal structure allows you to sort of codify or memorialize the nature of the DAO, right? And what's unique, and what I thought Wyoming did a really good job, was when you go through and create your DAO, you actually designate whether the DAO is managed by members or managed algorithmically. And I'm gonna do a follow-up video where I'm gonna walk through the steps in completing the DAO format or articles under Wyoming law. But for now, you know, the key with any DAO is to take decentralization to the max, right? So when you have the ability with the DAO LLC to memorialize and say that this entity is managed algorithmically, right, by what's basically a mathematical equation, as opposed to a member managed LLC, which is just by the votes and the apportioned interests and ownership of the LLC entity itself, it's a home run, right? So if you're going the DAO route, like, there's no question that you'd want to pay the $100 and incorporate in Wyoming. Now, that said, your constitutional documents, your operating agreements, your minutes, your organizational minutes, all of which are a necessity, right? An absolute necessity with any corporation, right? The biggest thing I always get is that people come to me and say, well, I filed with the state of California and I have this corporation, so I'm protected. No, the process of incorporation actually involves the drafting of bylaws, the process of having an organizational meeting. You're not fully and properly incorporated or formed until you've done that. So the same can be said for a DAO LLC. So it doesn't stop with just filing with the state of Wyoming. You have to have proper articles of organization that say something radically different than what a regular LLC would say. And also organizational minutes and the like, which again are gonna be a lot different than what you would do in a typical LLC situation, or even with a corporation. So it's something to be aware of if you're going down that route. But I think the fact that you can memorialize something in public record and say that, and I would never espouse setting up one of these Wyoming DAOs as a member managed LLC. You might as well just create a regular LLC. I would say that the fact that you can point to an algorithmically managed entity, and the statute actually provides that you have to list the location of that contract, the address for that contract. It's just a slam dunk. It's 100% the best way to do it. And then for the reasons I mentioned before, there's some ancillary benefits of just sort of being an LLC, right? Because you are an entity. And you may need a fiat account, and you're not going to get a fiat account as a general partnership. It's very difficult to do, especially if you're in crypto. It's hard enough in crypto. It's much harder if you're a non-entity and you go into your banker and say you're a DAO. They're gonna look at you crazy and say, please leave, right? Or, call the police. But my whole point is, I think it's a step in the right direction. I know like Colorado and some other states are going to copy that, which is great. And I think as the more states do it, the better, right? Because you'll see a proliferation of law, right? And like what you really need and what we really need is case law, right? Like we have the statute in Wyoming that says this is a DAO, and you have a lot of DeFi projects coming under the DAO, and my issue with DeFi that I've spoken about before is that is there really a promoter, right? Like you're facilitating the trade of security tokens potentially. You're potentially offering like a yield product which could be a fixed income security. And is there somebody responsible for that, right? Like the promoter or the owner, right? When it's a centralized entity, it's very easy for regulators to point at that person and go, okay, well, you're the one. And regulatory pressure, and he can go on that person. But if it's truly decentralized, right, and it's algorithmically managed, can you really enforce that? And that's the question. But we're not really going to have the answer to that until there's case law, right? So what's going to happen, and I would, any amount of money that it will, is that one of these DAOs is going to get sued, right? These DAOs are going to get sued, whether it's a regulatory or in just like a traditional civil sense. And as these cases make their way through the courts and reach like the appellate level and higher, what you're gonna see is law being made, right? Because the law is so nascent, and that's the problem like with just crypto in general in the US, is that you just don't have enough law to go on. You're in this like charcoal gray area, like you just don't know where to operate or how to operate. But as these laws progress, you're gonna see like cases pop up and more decisions being made, right? Like every day. And you see that now, especially in the delineation of what like Bitcoin is in terms of like the law. So you can expect that to happen. But I think like for, right now, absolutely, if you're gonna go the DAO route, which I've, eschewed the DAO before, mostly because there wasn't this kind of structure. This was just sort of this amalgamation and this fiction that you created, right? But now there is some kind of format, and it's exceedingly easy and cheap to set up. But I would definitely, if you're gonna go the DAO route, especially if you're in DeFi, just spend the $100, right? And I think it's $35 for registration, so $135. You're in, just make sure your constitutional documents are correct and appertaining to a DAO LLC versus a regular LLC, and you should be on your way and at least afford yourself the maximum amount of protection that you can get in what's otherwise a completely amorphous area of law. So check me out, Adam, Tracy, Tracy.io. Happy to answer any of your questions about DAO LLCs, and I will talk to you later. Cheers.